All right, welcome back to the Behind the Curtains podcast. If we were to be a Friends episode, I would call this episode the one where they talk about open houses, because today's episode is going to be all about why we think you should be doing open houses. If you're not doing them, you're leaving a lot of money out there. If you want the one way that you could print money in real estate, it would be to do open houses. So we all have great stories, crazy stories about what open houses has done for each of our businesses. So once again, joined by Taylor Goldenthal. He is the team leader of the Bridge Group Collective. Myself, Nicola Palomento, I'm the team leader of the Bridge Group Heights, and Cole Watkins, the team leader of the Bridge Group West. So let's kick it off. Why, Taylor, do you feel like open houses are an important part of a real estate agent's business?
Because quite literally, it's one of the only forms of prospecting that the people come to you and conversations are walking into the door. You're not having to go out there and knock on doors and shake people to get them to talk to you about real estate. You can actually have the consumers come your way, and it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate that you're competent. Besides the fact that it's also great to do for your sellers, because as we know, open houses work. They work at generating multiple offers. They work at getting those fence sitters off the fence and to submit an offer. But at the end of the day, it's a great form of prospecting.
Yeah, why do you think people don't do open houses as a real estate agent?
As a real estate agent, I think that they won't do it for the same reason why I told you that agent, mentioned it, which is even more reason for us to do it, is because they want to go to brunch on Sunday, Sunday fun day. They don't want to be inconvenienced because they still have a 9 to 5 mindset of, I live for the weekend. But if you're in real estate, and we're going to share multiple stories on how you can get 6 to 9 different, leads or pieces of business off of one open house. And so, leveraging that listing, in my opinion, I think that, that agent that said, we don't do open houses because agents just want to do that to get leads is the very reason we want to do the open house. And at the same time, now even in this market where we have days on market are going up, right? Inventory is going up. What I've noticed is that, the MLS, they're not coming because of the MLS announcement of the open house. They're coming because of the 20 to 30 open house signs that we're putting out.
If you do that.
If you do that, right, that's hard work. And most people, exclude that because it's hard work. But if you bring in people from the new construction, if you bring in people from the commercial areas, if you are strategic with your signs, and we'll get into that, you'll absolutely have people that never even saw your listing, but are buyers and people that need to sell to buy. So, in my opinion, and I know we're going to get into this, I think that you have 3 different stages of the open house. You have the pre-open house, the open house, and the post-open house.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into having a successful open house. And I think if you've watched any of our previous episodes, we've kind of talked about how it's one thing for an agent to say, like, I know I need to be doing cold calling, door knocking, etc. It's another to know how to do it well so that it actually generates something for you. And I think most agents, if they've ever done an open house, nobody really showed them how to do it. They may have shadowed one other agent one time. So then they go to do their own. There's no planning. They didn't prep. They didn't invite anybody. They're not sharing it on social media. They're not doing all these things to make sure that by the time they are there on Saturday that it's going to go well.
Right.
And so then they have a crappy open house. Nobody shows up and they say open house don't work. But in reality, we know that it's not that the open house doesn't work. It's that the agent didn't work to make sure that the open house would be successful.
Well, even something as simple as scripting, right? I mean, you went into an agent's open house that is on the Bridge Group Heights, and you had role played, and you walked in. You kind of heard her go back and forth with a couple of prospects. It was a little rusty, a little rough around the edges, and then you stepped up and just with good practice scripting, you converted 2 buyers.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that the business is out there, especially during the holidays, during a market shift, during high interest rates. We are still pulling business off of every open house every weekend.
Yeah. I think open houses are this thing that people think is like, oh, they used to do that. It's like the book. People tell you about like, oh, when I was in real estate, like we had a book and all the houses were printed on pages, and like that's the only way. It's almost like people think that that's like, oh, it's from that time.
Right.
And now we have social media, so I don't need to do open houses. I can be lazy on the weekend. I don't have to work. And we're like, fine, you stay home and enjoy your lunch and your brunch. we will be out there kicking ass, taking names, getting to meet people, getting more clients,
taking your
right?
clients.
Taking your
At the end of the
clients because
day,
you're lazy.
the open house, you're being interviewed basically. People are walking in that door and they're gonna buy something, whether it's gonna be that month, that quarter, later that year, next year. And it's an opportunity for you to show what you can bring to the table. And chances are their lazy agent that's sitting at home isn't doing half of the things that you just demonstrated in a 15, 20-minute interaction.
Well, and I think, just because both of y'all are fantastic at social media, that's a good point. Kind of a line to draw is, you have social media and you have open houses. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both and. But, at the same time, when you have, an open house, it is the car dealership. And, we don't have, as real estate agents, we don't have multi-million-dollar facilities that we're sitting in all day with millions of dollars of product sitting there and people are just coming to us. However, in an open house, we're sitting in the product that they want to buy and we are offering the services face to face. We're able to sell ourselves. Whereas on social media, you're not able to have that face to face interaction, even if at the very best they DM you. You're still not going to compete with me, who's face to face with them, offering value and going to close them.
And when we do open houses, and we've said this again before, so go watch the other episodes if you haven't, but if you're doing an open house, you're getting to talk to somebody right then and there. They are a real person who's walking into a home wanting to do something in real estate. And so you're really just trying to figure out, are you the right agent for them? Which we know for us, 99% of the time, we are the right agent for them. They just hadn't met us before.
Right.
And this is our opportunity to show them that. Of course, there's going to be people that it's not going to be a good thing, or you're not going to want them as a client. But
Right.
I would rather have the choice and be able to pick from people coming in that are getting to meet me on my terms. It's like home field advantage, right? For like a sports team.
Yeah.
Like you're getting to play on my field. So when you come into my open house and I have it set up the way I have it, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get you as a client.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at other forms of prospecting, social media, as good as it is, it won't generate the same immediate lead generation or conversion that something like an open house will. So let's get into a little bit more of the meat then of like how do we do open houses different than other people? How do we contrast what do people think you do at an open house versus what you actually should do?
Before we get too much into that, I don't want to cut Taylor off, but I do want to invite everyone to something that we're doing, because I think we're gonna, with the time that we have right now, we're gonna share our experiences with open houses and what we've come to know and the results. But the real how-to is going to be at our event on January 19th. We'll have the RSVP down below on this email, but it's going to be a great time for all of us and other agents as well to mastermind, to interact with about specifically how we execute our open houses. We're going to have our open house set up there. We're going to have our scripting there. We're going to have all of the tools and resources that we frankly don't have time to go through on this podcast, but we're going to have it there January 19th, and it's going to be in the Galleria area, happy hour. So more information, more specifics down below. Please sign up for that. We'd love to go through everything we don't have time to go through at that time.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be more of a practical, these are the steps to do it. We can't obviously cover that now. We're going to cover more of the why and the stories of how we've been successful, because we want you to be excited to come and meet us and learn about it. So again, January 19th, we'll be having our open house panel, and you'll get to ask your questions, because we know even if we cover everything that we think people might need to learn, there are things that we do that might not be things we think about, or stuff that other people don't know. So we invite you to ask your questions.
I mean, so many people, you think, oh, they don't work because you're going to show up to your open house 5 minutes before. You'll turn the lights on, maybe on the first floor. You're not even going to go upstairs. It's going to be quiet and awkward. I went into an open house a couple weeks ago with a client. We were touring a few homes, and it was like nails on a chalkboard. I walk in, this guy's just like sitting down in the kitchen. It's quiet. Half the lights are off. There's like no music, nothing. And it's just an awkward, uncomfortable feeling. And this guy's just kind of standing there. Hey, how's it going? And of course, that guy doesn't like doing open houses. It was his listing. I guarantee you his sellers told him, hey, you better hold my house open. You better do an open house. Little did he know he was leaving money on the table, potentially thousands of dollars on the table by not doing it properly.
Yeah.
One of the things that, we talk about, maybe we can just jump right into it as far as, the 3 different, aspects of the open house. Pre-open house, is something that allows you, if everyone cringes when they hear door knocking, right? You should go door knocking. And the reason is because it's kind of the same thing as a cold call, right? That's how it feels, is that you're interrupting someone. Now, if I can call someone and it be a warm call, then now I'm a little bit more, apt to go out there and knock doors. That's what an open house allows us to do, is to turn it from a cold knock into a warm knock. Now I'm inviting them to a party. I'm inviting them to an open house to come have mimosas with me, to come tell me, what do they think about my listing? Do they feel like we're priced fair for the market? Interact and engage and be my future client. No one, I think, does that better than Taylor, who in the very beginning didn't want to do it. But then off of Nick got a ton of business, a lot of it off of one of Nick's listings.
It's never gonna not come up.
I know. And then there's the other one that we'll get into after that.
No.
Well, and which is, it hurts Nick to hear it, but a lot of business was made off of the door knocking for these open houses.
But I think it's a good example. It's a good
Excellent.
example that I personally chose to be lazy. And if somebody was to tell me open houses don't work, I have a personal anecdotal, like, this happened to me. I did not do an open house and somebody else got business.
It wasn't even that you didn't do the open house.
Or the
I don't think you door knocked for it.
No.
So it was, we'll just jump into story time. Nick had a listing. He held
And this is a part
this
of
was
our
in
pre-open.
This was in 2019.
Well,
So,
yeah, and this is
market.
a part of our pre-open house,
Right.
kind of system here.
Yeah. So I went and door knocked before the open house the day of. It was like 10:30. I hit 30 or 40 doors, and I go back, get into the house for the open house. It was the second weekend that it was held open. And as soon as I lock the door behind me to start my setup, I get a text message. Hey, just got a new job in Chicago. Can you list my house?
And it was one of the
It
neighbors.
was one of the neighbors that I door knocked 15, 20 minutes before. I didn't even talk to him. I just left the flyer at the door because it was hot and sweaty. I just left the flyer, rang the bell, and kept walking. Like, I don't do that now. I've learned you want to have that interaction at the door, but he picked it up and texted me right then and there. I listed his house. I door knocked for his listing, for the open house. The neighbor of Nick's listing calls me. Hey, I got your flyer. I'm going to fire my agent. They're not doing any open houses. You seem to do a lot of open houses. Door knocked sold the first one, door knocked for the second one, picked up a third listing. Each open house that I did, I picked up a buyer client as well. 6 pieces of business, all started from one 5x7 postcard.
So please do not tell me that open houses don't work, because if I would have done it and would have followed our system, that would have been 6 extra closings for me. And I know a lot of agents out there, you're probably, if you are not a top producer, you're thinking, man, what I would do to get 6 transactions. This was just like a bonus. This is on top of all the other prospecting and other things that we're doing and other lead generation that Taylor has. And just because he's just doing the right steps, he's just following the process, 6 listings, right? And obviously there has to be something said for your ability to communicate, knowing the right things, being personable, like all of that is like, yes, of course. But if you just do the action, if you just do the right thing, if you just get out there and you hustle and you meet people, it's the doing it and the repetition and that comes from every single time there's an open house, doing the door knocking and the flyering that leads to when eventually, because even if you do that a few times, you might not get anything.
Well,
it's not like every time you get something out of it.
It's not even. I mean, I think we're saying door knocking, but in a lot of those instances,
Flyering.
it was just flyering.
Yeah, it was literally just flyering.
And so Nick got one of the biggest listings of his career by just flyering one of the properties that we had just sold or under contract.
Yep.
And and actually from that, there's just a line of all these pieces of business that Taylor got from the same listing.
Yep.
Over time. I don't know how many pieces of business that came from that, but several millions of dollars because of the price point that one was in.
Right.
So we're not saying necessarily that you have to actually door knock. It's helpful if you do, but if you just said, all right, I'm already doing open houses, I'm afraid to door knock, let me just take that baby step and put flyers out.
100%.
That is going to get you more traction that we have right now without doing it.
So let's say you want to start farming a certain area or a neighborhood, and what do we know to do? Circle prospect that area and hold as many open houses in that community as you can. So if you're sitting there and every weekend you're pulling an open house from a particular community or area of town, and every open house that you do, mind you, none of these are even your listings, but you're going out and you're just flyering 30, 40, 50 doors before the open house. That's upping your chances that much more that someone's going to keep one of those things. They're not going to know it wasn't your listing. All they're going to know is, wow, Nick's out here working my neighborhood a lot. And if they may need something, they may need to sell a house, who are they going to call? The guy that's always working in the community, whether it's their listing or not.
Which is why we tell new agents, if you come to me as a new agent, you say, what do I need to do right now? Like what can I do today to start getting clients? The first thing I'm going to say is try to pick up an open house. Because if you can pick up the open house, there's all these other things that you can do around it that are going to give you more opportunities to talk to people and have a reason to talk to them. And it gives you that warm open instead of that cold, right? Instead of cold calling or cold door knocking, you have something to invite them to. You've got a flyer that lowers your anxiousness, that lowers your fear from it. And now you're taking one open house, which, and we can talk in more detail, but it's not just 1 hour on a Saturday. We do them for 3 to 4 hours Saturday and Sunday. So you want both of those days. So that gives you a total of 6 to 8 hours to meet people. Then you're getting the pre and post. So pre, you're doing your flyering. So that's another 50 people you could talk to. You're doing online. You're marketing it on Facebook and Instagram. There's DMs or people could message you.
And primarily, if you're doing stuff online, you want to just use that as an opportunity so that you can say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm documenting what I'm doing. Are you going to get a lot of people that are reaching out, probably more so agents than anyone else about your open house, but more so it is documenting what you're doing and that you are working on the weekends, that you're working an open house, and your sphere is seeing that.
I was going to say, so just that one, this is why I would tell a new agent start there, is because from that one open house that you got, you call all the agents that have open houses that are in an area you want to be in. Most of them aren't going to want to do their open houses. Now, you might get a lot of no's, but start there. You're just calling the agent to see if you can host their open house. So once you get that, and you can, now there's all these, it's like having a listing. There's all these extra things you get to do by having that open house that you get to hold. And so if I was a new agent and I wanted to start meeting people in an area, or wanted to start farming, or whatever your goal is, I just want to get my first deal, open house. 83% of the deals I did my first year were people I did not know before I met them at an open house. So I think that's the best way to start. Like, what is the thing that's I don't have to go and buy a list. I don't have to spend hours cold calling people who are going to cuss me out and hang up on me. I pull an open house after calling 20, 30 agents, find the one that doesn't want to host it, and then go host the open house. And there's hundreds of conversations that you could have just for that one weekend of open houses that you got.
Oh, I 100% agree. Like I most often think, like, if I was going to move to a new city where I knew no one, I don't have a sphere in that city, like, how would I start my real estate business? Hands down, it would be open houses Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I love that you hinted on Friday. People underestimate the Friday open house as well, especially if you're going to do all the proper steps and hold a neighbors only. I do air quotes because it's not actually neighbors only. It's going to be posted on HAR, but you go and you invite all the neighbors and you say, hey, I'd love for you to come on by. I'm going to have champagne and rosé and whatever. Come by, check it out, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. The more opportunity you have to get in front of people. If your goal is 50 conversations in a week, right, to meet your goals, you can squeeze that out of one weekend of open houses easily.
Yeah, I would absolutely rather do that than a neighbors only open house than a broker open, because the brokers open, even if you talk to the guys on the TV shows, they're going to tell you the broker open is paid for by the network, and those agents know that they're going to be on E or on Bravo or on Netflix. That's why they're coming. That's why it's a massive event. But in reality, broker opens don't really bring that much of a possibility of an agent coming and saying, "Oh, this is perfect for my client." Like they will know that by it being on the MLS.
Also, most of those take place in markets that like New York, where there isn't one kind of single MLS where everybody can just look up listings. If a broker doesn't advertise that listing, people won't know that it exists. So you kind of have to have broker opens in New York, because that way other brokers, agents can know that they might have a buyer. Whereas here we have one of the best MLSs in the country.
We do,
and people can just look up stuff whenever they want. So doesn't really add a benefit.
Yeah, not here, but Rio held a Thursday or Friday night, a neighbors only open house. And when he did that, he filled it up with the neighbors, and guess what? The next door neighbor used him as their listing agent. So literally, he sold that house, and then as soon as he sold that house, he just moved his sign 1 yard over.
I think he helped them purchase something too on top of that.
And he helped them. Yeah. So it was about a $1.5 million deal, whenever everything was all said and done.
Not bad for a Friday night and a couple bottles of wine.
Not at all. So, I think that, as we get into the actual open house, like the event, we've gone through the pre-open house. Let's get into the actual open house. And I think that there really two, three, four different very important parts that we need to talk about. Number one is the actual space, right? The actual event itself needs to be thoughtfully planned out. You mentioned, the awkwardness whenever you walked in with your clients, and it was just like, kind of dimly lit. There was a stranger sitting in the kitchen. There was no music on, and it was just kind of weird. That is not a good place to come from and sell the property,
Not
right?
at all.
Yeah, I mean, well, you probably were like, you felt awkward for your own clients. Can you imagine the person that goes in by themselves
Oh, it's
to that
ridiculous.
awkward,
So
empty open house?
the way I think about it, someone that walks into my open house is probably going to walk into 4 or 5 or 6 other ones that same day as well. I may not be sitting in the nicest house, the house that's the best for them, but I'm damn sure going to have the best energy, and it's going to be presented the best that it possibly can as well. So that's showing up early, opening the blinds, turning the lights on, closing the toilet seats, lighting a candle, playing music, having refreshments. You want someone to be able to walk in there and feel comfortable, like they can let their guard down a little bit, rather than feel like they're walking through some really like quaint museum and having to be all hush hush. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It should be something that someone can picture themselves living in. And then at the same time, like I said, you're kind of on stage. You're interviewing. You're doing the neighbors only open house. It's an opportunity for you to show the neighbors, this is how I market my clients' listings. It's an opportunity when the buyers walk in. This is what I know about this area. This is what I know about this market. You're obviously familiar with this area. You're looking at moving in here. That's why you're here. I'm an expert, and let me show you.
Right.
By the way, would you like a mimosa? Would you like a White Claw? How about the kids? Do they want a cookie? Little things like that just to establish rapport and credibility.
That's the most important thing, in my opinion. Even over the closing scripting is as soon as they walk in the door. I want it to smell good. I want it to sound good. I want it, I want there to be an eventful presence versus, and we do that even from the time they walk in with our red carpets, right? We have a 12-foot by 2-foot red carpet that says "Welcome to my open house," right? They're already having an experience before they ever cross the threshold. So, let's talk about that sign in. That is one of the most important parts because I can't do anything post open house if I don't have their contact information. And, if there's a bottleneck at the front door with one sign in list or you're using an iPad and you have 4 different groups, guess what? You're going to miss people sign in.
Or you don't ask them at all, right?
Right.
And I think what you said at the last sentence was crucial. It's post open house follow up.
Yep.
Most of us, or most agents, I would say, would think of doing the open house as like it's a single day event.
Right.
It happens and it's over. And we think of an open house as a part of a system. It's like one
Right.
piece of it. We know that post open house, there's going to be weeks of follow up. And so how are we going to follow up with anybody with no contact info?
Right.
But most people are just too scared to ask. I went and visited an open house. 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's right here in the neighborhood, just to kind of see if the agent, like, what they were going to do. They greeted me, which was nice. No music. It was dark. They never asked me to sign in. And I even told them, like, yeah, I live in the neighborhood. Like, I gave them hints. Like, I was hoping that they were going to, like, try to get my address, try to figure out. Nope. They were just like, oh, cool. How long have you been here? And I was like, oh, we've been here over a year. We really, really like it. I just wanted to see what our neighbor's house looks like. That doesn't mean I wouldn't sell my house. It doesn't mean I wouldn't buy an investment property. Like,
Right.
there could be something to do with me, but they never got my information. That means they can't ever follow up with me to find that out.
Right.
So a lot of times we're trying too hard to find the low-hanging fruit. We're just hoping that if we do an open house, a successful open house is that one random person comes in that's like, can you help me buy a house? I'm already pre-approved. Like, that usually doesn't happen.
It happens, but
Right.
you have to do like 50 before
Right.
that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
The
It's
likelihood
very
is
rare
low.
that someone falls into your lap like that at an open house without doing a little bit of digging.
But more so what happens is you meet a lot of people and you're doing a lot of follow-up. And the only way to do that is if you're making them sign in.
Yeah. And so, like, I did an open house with Will like 4 weeks ago. And whenever we did that, no, it was with Kendall. I did that open house, and we only had 4 pieces of traffic. I think 3 of them had agents that physically walked through the house with them. And then, the one, Whitney, came through, and she was a neighbor just like that. Was not in a rush. Guess what? We're having a listing appointment at her property the second week of January, and then she's going to be buying something in the 800s. She has a 450 to sell. So out of that one open house came over $1 million deal and it was just because we were there and we got her to sign in. Because it's handwritten, I always say like, "Hey, can I verify your phone number, your email? I want to make sure that I can read the handwriting so that I don't get home and say, damn, is this a 4 or an H or, like what is this?" And then I go through 7 or 8 different things and I get, the email pushed back.
To your point, Nick, about agents thinking that it's just a one-day event,
Mhm.
it's the same pitfall that agents really fall in at the end of the day with really anything, and that is we have standard operating procedures. You're a business at the end of the day as a real estate agent. You need to treat each thing that you do for prospecting as a procedure. We have standard operating procedures to outline that open house.
Taylor managed hotels. I'm just going to
yeah.
clarify why he thinks this way. This is
Yeah,
good.
I did, but no, you have your SOP which outlines what I'm going to do. How am I going to go about finding open houses? Where am I going to locate them? What day am I going to go out and door knock for it? When am I going to start advertising it on social media? What time am I going to go out there and put out my signs? Where am I going to put out my signs? So on and so forth. But having a legitimate plan in place so I know what I'm doing every single time I have an open house.
I think 90% of agents have not done any of the things that you've just said.
No.
Because they don't think about it like a business would. You're thinking about it from the perspective of somebody that's running a hotel, right?
Yep.
And you've got to think about the guests and what you're providing and where it is and your staffing levels. When most people get a license, they're just like, this is like my 5th job. I don't really know what else I want to do. I have no other degree. I have no prospect. I'll just try real estate, or I'm just going to get it to help my friends and family. The level of thinking isn't there, but that's also why you will operate as a top producer and sell so many houses and make money when they won't. It's not that they're not capable. It's that they've never been in a position to ever think about it that way. When you have to treat this, and you've said this time and time again, this is your business. You have to treat it as if you were launching a restaurant, or as if you were starting your own clothing brand, or if you were running a brick and mortar store. Like all the logistics that go into that, if you were to apply that same level of like thinking and process and procedure and documentation, and then you're going to crush it. But nobody does that.
Well, the best and worst thing about real estate is that it's all 100% commission based, right? And so, I work with agents that are brand new to the business, and I guarantee you that the thing that they mess up on in their first open house on their own is their signs. Why? Because they're lazy. I give them 20, 25 signs, and they will put out 6. And it's a 6 like on the street coming up to the house. And so, after that, we say, hey, look, I think you could have had more traffic if you put out all 25 signs. And you have to think about it as I am using each one of these signs to direct my next commission to this house. If you think that 6 signs is enough to direct your next commission, then, good on you. For me, I'm going to use 30 signs. Like I'm going to go overboard and make sure that commission check makes it all the way to my open house. And I think that's a good way to think about it in commission-based sales, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got your pre-open house where we're doing Facebook, we're social media, we're doing flyering, we're doing a Friday neighbors-only open house to try to meet the neighbors. Then at the open house, we've got music, lights, we're turning on, opening the windows, we're making it comfortable, we're greeting every guest at the door, we're having them sign in. Now we have a whole open house setup, and if you want to see what that open house setup looks like, you have to come January 19th. Because we're going to show you multiple examples of our team members and how they set up their open house, which isn't necessarily going to guarantee that you're going to get a client. But again, it's one piece of the puzzle that if you're missing a lot of these little pieces, it's like having an incomplete puzzle. It still exists. You can kind of tell what it is, but you lose the full impact if you're not doing all these things. And that's part of what we're going to learn at that panel. But if you've got your sign-in cards, what other things would we recommend to somebody at the open house to make it successful?
So I think that the most dangerous thing that you can have at the open house is a script that works, right? And we're not going to go into the scripting right now because we want you to come to January 19th. But the script for how to get someone to sign in. You can put someone off and make them upset, and they will never sign in. Or you can make them feel very comfortable and cooperative about signing in. And that way you have something to follow up with. Then, there are other agents that follow them around the open house. And, for me, that's like me following, being followed in a department store, right? Like, don't follow me around. Like, I don't want that. It's uncomfortable. If they have questions, I always answer them. And if there's bits of, a secret room, or if there's something in the open house that's unique, I don't know why a secret room jumped out, but if there's something in the open house that's unique, then I make sure to point that out. But at the end of the open house or whenever they're about to leave, that script is the conversion script, and that is what will make or break your open house and your efforts to put yourself out there and to meet complete strangers on a Saturday and Sunday. That is the make or break script. And so we will go through that on January 19th. However, that is the setting the appointment script. That is the moving forward. You like me, I like you enough to invest another 30 minutes together to see if we're a good fit.
What are we typically trying to set up when we're going for that?
It's either going to be a listing appointment if they have let you know that they have a home that they need to sell, or the buyer's appointment, and you're just running them through the different questions, right? So you make them feel as if they need to go meet with you to go over the home buying process in detail.
Yeah.
Or they've seen how you market an open house, they've seen how you present the listing, and they want you to do that the same way for them.
Yeah, we have this, and Nick, don't say it. I know you want to say
Okay.
it. I know you want to say it so bad, but I want to wait until January 19th because it is this question that we pose at the end of, you know what I'm talking about? Were you going to say it?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I'm not
So
we'll give away the secrets on January 19th.
but you know, the thing is there's this question that we pose at that time, right? When they're walking out, and it's actually a collection of 3 different questions to qualify them, and then to set that appointment. And it just works. I mean, the last 3.5 years that we've been using it, I know that my conversion rate has gone up because it says I'm not pushy, and I'm going to give you a lot of value.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when we're thinking about scripting, what we're really trying to do is give ourselves tools on a tool belt so that we can react and we can provide value. Because at the end of the day, when we're meeting somebody in an open house, we're really just trying to establish rapport.
Yep.
We want to know that, hey, I like you, you like me. Is this a mutual relationship that we both want to have? And if we establish that there's some comfort level there and that there's a need there, we're looking for a problem that we can solve, and we're looking for a way to add value. So the scripting is not about trying to manipulate somebody in a mean way or a bad way. Like we do want to bring them into our ecosystem. We want them to see why they want to work with us. And so some of that is asking the right questions to pique certain interest and things. But again, at the core of it, we're just trying to solve a problem. So we're not trying to get one over on somebody. We just only have a minute or two to really hook them to get them to want to work with us.
Well, I really believe, and I think everyone in this room does, is that I am one of the best at what I do. And it's my ethical responsibility to myself, you know, in my own success, like Grant Cardone says, you know, and to them for me to say, if I really believe I'm one of the best at what I do, then I know that if they walk out of here and work with anyone else, then they're losing.
Yep.
Right.
And I know it sounds bad, but at the same
No,
time, it doesn't.
It's the absolute truth. I mean, I tell that to my agents all the time, and it's something that I believe within myself. I owe it to these people to let them know who I am and what I do because they have a need. And if I don't, they're likely going to have a lesser experience because of it.
That's right.
Right. And unfortunately, most agents, if they follow a script, they're either too robotic and they don't care about the person. They're not actually really listening to them, which is a key. You have to listen. Learning the script is only to give you the right tools. It's like the actor that memorizes a script so well that when they're on camera, you think that they're really that person because they've said that line so many times in the dressing room, on set, whatever, they've practiced it so that it's a part of them. And so when we do these open, I don't follow a script per se anymore because I've said the same thing so many times that now I'm really listening. I'm dialed into this person and I'm trying to look for what are ways that we connect. What is some way that, your kid likes football. I played for Katy High School. Like I'm trying to draw a connection there by just listening and interacting with them so that whenever I get to the topic of like, hey, what do you need to do in real estate? I don't come across as like the dirty salesman that's trying to convince them to do something they don't want to do. I'm a friend, right? And Ryan Serhant tells us in his book, people like to shop with friends. So I'm just trying to figure out, hey, are we friends? Like if we are, then great, I can help you out. And you're going to want to work with me because I'm the best, right? And if you go with somebody else, you're going to be working with somebody that's not your friend, that doesn't care about you. But unfortunately, a lot of agents, when they're going through all of this, they really try to just push the search portal.
Yeah.
That's like the like you've messed up.
That's why they're already at your open house because someone set them up with a search portal.
And they're probably
on 8
5.
search portals.
Yeah, they're on 5 other
5 to
search
8 search portals. Yeah.
Because everybody goes for the same thing. Why? Because it's the easiest thing. You're like, oh, I can set you up on a search portal. They can do their own search portal. That's not the value.
They're already set up on their own Zillow or HAR search portal. They don't need us for that, right? But it's a great way to avoid rejection.
Yeah.
And for us, you know, that is our entire our entire job is to search out rejection, right? And still, get them as our clients. But I think that we've talked about the pre-open house, talked about the open house. Miss anything? Am I missing
I mean,
anything
yeah, but we're
in
not
the
going to get
open
into
house?
that right now.
Yeah, right.
There's some practical, like, you do these steps, set it up this way that we're going to cover. But your real goal at the open house, if you go to an open house and you do nothing else, is to get contact information
Yep.
or to set an appointment. It's one of the two. If you can't set an appointment, just get the contact information and follow up. Even if you royally screw up the script, you don't say things right, if you just got their number and their email address, then you can put them in a database. You can send them a weekly email. You can follow up and phone call. Like, you can send them stuff if
There's
you got
still
an
a chance
address.
to recover.
Right? There's
Yeah.
you can sometimes still pull business, and I've done that before. Where at the open house, it just didn't really flow very well. But I had their information, and then after 6 months of follow up, then they wanted to do something. So you can still turn it into business. So it's one of the two. But ideally, we're really trying to shoot for setting an appointment. Like, can I walk out of this open house meeting somebody the next Tuesday for coffee to talk about what they want to do in real estate? Right?
And that's what it is you hit the nail on the head, is post open house is really about the follow-up.
Yeah.
And the post open house really starts immediately as soon as the open house is over with follow-up.
Sometimes
Now,
during it, if you have an empty moment, I will
Right.
Oh,
record
sure,
my
yeah.
post follow-up while I'm still there hosting if it's empty for a few minutes.
Yeah.
yeah, and we have our 5 days of follow-up system, which we'll talk about there, but that 5 day of follow-up system starts the day of the open house, not the day after. And Sirhan, again, to bring him up, he talks about follow-up is, impressive follow-up is the day of.
Yep.
And if he meets someone at a networking event, he pulls their card out of their pocket, or out of his pocket, not out of their
That would be
pocket.
weird.
That's
Don't-
strange.
don't
Don't do
do
that. But he pulls his card out of his pocket in the elevator, leaving that networking event, and makes a video or sends them a message literally that same day. And so how impressive is it to someone that went to our open house and is getting a message from us from the same open house, the day of? I know that really a lot of what this open house is about is building our base, right? So if we get any immediate business from that open house, then a blessing. That's a huge blessing. If we don't get a piece of business from it, then what we need to do is realize we have just built our base with 6, 8, 12, 20 different groups that came through. We've put that into our database, and now it is all about follow-up. I have had people that came through with their agents, right? Still throw them in the CRM. They're getting my weekly, newsletter. They're getting my emails. I'm not, asking for their business, but at the same time, they're still getting monthly market reports, things like that. Their agent has put in 3, 4 offers with them for them, and they have not been able to get the deal done. And so because I'm top of mind, they say, I went to your open house. You offered a ton of value. Our agent can't get the deal done. I don't feel like they have the experience they need for us. And so I would like to give you a shot. And we get the deal done, right?
Yeah.
But it's because we treated that open house as a base expander, right? We said, hey, we want to expand our base. We're putting these names in our CRM, and we're following up every single day for a certain amount of time, and then it's passive follow-up.
Yeah, it's the post open house is the net, right? It's
Yep.
You're catching everything that's coming through that open house. You're not all, well, maybe a net's because things can slip through it. It's the bucket, right? Like, nothing's gonna get out of this, right? I'm
Right.
gonna meet all these people, and rather than them disappearing into the ether and I never see them again, I have something that when I go through my normal follow-up system, and then they're in a database, and they're still hearing from me every single week. Even if I don't physically see them ever again, they're still gonna see me. And what we know from studies that have been done about social media and studies that have been done about celebrities is the frequency at which you see somebody builds familiarity to where you almost feel like you know them and you're friends with them.
Yep.
That's why celebrities have these like crazy stalkers, is because this person has seen them in all these movies and they're like, we're best friends because I've seen all your movies, and that celebrities never met them, right?
Right.
We want stalkers. Like, we want people that have
Yeah. Not
not
I
in
mean,
the,
I don't
like,
want
I
stalkers.
want
Tapping
somebody
on
that
the
has,
window.
they've seen me enough in my weekly database emails that by the time we talk, I don't even have to try.
Yeah.
They're already a client because they feel like they know who I am because they've gotten to see me week after week after week. And I've got stories. I mean, I think we all do, but I had a client 2 years ago. I was hosting an open house, met somebody there at that open house, got their contact information, did my follow-up. Nothing really happened out of it. But 2 years later, they're now ready to buy. They've been getting my weekly email every single week for 2 years. that they called me, and I had their name and number in my phone, but I don't remember who they are. They were like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we met 2 years ago, and I'm ready to buy. I know another agent, but I just really feel like I had a good connection with you. Would you have time to help me? If I had done everything based on what will lead to a deal right now, and not had a system for holding on to her, like that bucket, right?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
would have been gone that we wouldn't have capitalized on, right? And I know this is that, one of the deals that Taylor and I are working on right now, that just came through, this weekend, came from an open house that I met this person at 5.5 years ago. The funniest thing about it, which is not really funny for the seller, but we listed this property. This was before COVID. Beautiful property in Cinco Ranch with a pool. It didn't really have a backyard, and that was the only negative thing about it. For 4,500 square foot property, it didn't have an open, or it didn't have a
Was it that
backyard.
one-story Highland with the skinny pool?
No. That was that was on Hanoverian.
Yeah,
in-
Hanoverian.
Yeah, but this one was before the bridge route, right? This was a long time ago.
Okay.
And so the thing is that I held this thing open, man, maybe like 5-6 times. Like, it was on the market for a while. I felt terrible for the sellers, but at the same time, I met Jeff and Christy when they came in, and I said, "Hey, man, I recognize you from NOV. We used to work together." And then now that client that came through after following up, we did a deal together, and then that deal has turned into 6. So I met them. I was in the open house. Didn't even sell that property. Right, that property never sold. But I was able to turn that into 6 pieces of business right now. And so, because Jeff did multiple deals with me, his kids have now started doing deals with us because they're getting, they're growing up. So they're getting married, getting engaged. So it's really, really cool to see that from one open house, 6 pieces of business, and we don't even know if that's the most that we'll get out of that one client.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think we all have stories like that.
Yeah, I mean, and other people think too, especially in a market like this where we're not guaranteed to have a ton of traffic, right? All it takes is one.
Yep.
The first story with Pearland and door knocking for the 3 listings isn't why I can't hold Nick's listings open anymore. It's actually this most recent story. And again, it was the second weekend that we had.
I didn't learn my lesson.
He didn't. No, he has now. It was the second weekend he held it open. It was slow. It was right before
High price point.
High price point.
Niche product.
Niche product. 3-story townhome. I had 3 groups of traffic in. That was it. And one of those 3 materialized into my 2 largest sales to date. And I still have things in the pipeline as a result of what I got from those 2 sales.
Yeah. Big gated community Cinco Ranch sale, River Oaks buy.
Yeah.
It's so, I know it hurts. It stings. But at the same time, it was from an open house. And there, I guess, in my opinion, there is just no better way for us that car, that car lot, deal, is that you don't have anyone coming to you. Even if you have a real estate office, it's just today
Nobody
isn't
walks
20,
up to it.
30 years ago where people used to walk in and be like, I need to sell my house.
I mean, the only way you get that now is if you're paying Zillow thousands of dollars a month. I'll take 6-7 hours of my weekend, a couple of hours in the week in advance prepping,
yeah.
and $35 at HEB to get some refreshments over that any day of the week. And I didn't share that story to kick Nick. Well, I did a little bit, but the main reason why I wanted to share that story is it only takes one. So if you're like, it's been on the market for 3 weeks, I don't know if I want to hold it open, but it's an area that you like to work in, a price point you want to farm, all it takes is one person that walks in that door to convert into some significant business.
Well, and I guess we can end on that is that, the thing is, if you don't have the right tools, and by tools I mean scripting, and then the strategic way we do certain things in our open house, you are still going to, even if you hold the door open, every Saturday and Sunday to your listing, you're still probably going to miss out on a lot of business because you're not saying or doing or setting it up the right way.
Yep.
And I know that because there has been several years that we have kind of perfected and strategically perfected this open house strategy, and all the way from the time they get there to the time they leave and the follow-up from it. So I think that there's going to be a lot of knowledge shared on the 19th. There's going to be a lot more stories, and there's going to be a lot of very practical how-to. I know that we're putting together a nice presentation for that. to where you're going to be able to see the videos that we send for follow-up. You're going to be able to see physically the open house setup, and we're going to be able to have some drinks and talk about it.
Yeah. So just to close us out, how much money would you say that we have made collectively from open houses?
It's so hard to say because, in the one instance, I can say, okay, this one sale came because I met them at the open house, but we have a ton of people that are sellers. I would say that we have just as many buyers as we do sellers that we get from the open house that they need to buy that they need to sell their property before they buy something else. So now that's two pieces of business. Should I count it just from the open house, or I met so and so at the open house and now they have sent me 13 pieces of business, but I met them at the open house.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very difficult for me to do that. I would attribute the first 2 years of my business solely open house and referrals from those open house. My sphere sucked in the first 2 years of my my sphere was horrible. I couldn't get anything from my sphere, not because they couldn't afford anything, just because I wasn't, I wasn't present on social media like I should have been. But my open houses are really what fueled even stuff that I'm still getting today. And I think I'll sell 38 properties this year, while kind of running the teams and everything like that. But it was fueled by that first 2 years doing open houses every single weekend and growing that base.
I think it would easily be in the millions.
Yeah.
If we were to count up all the transactions and then the transactions from those transactions and the kind of the spider web and
Easy.
the tree.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah,
Over
so,
mi- over
yeah,
millions.
myself, I mean, easily a third of my business volume sold has been from open houses.
Yeah, I would say mine's closer to half.
Yeah, I was really heavy on my sphere, but yeah.
And I want to say this is that those are big numbers, but y'all also both pull a lot of people from social media, from YouTube, from all of these other resources and ways of prospecting. Open houses is just one thing that we're going to be talking about, in this January 19th. Or that's the main thing, but there are so many different things that I'm excited to talk about next year in 2023, and meet up about and talk about. But you guys actually do a ton of business from online, from YouTube, from Instagram, and networking. Networking is something that I think has just blown up. You're about to get 15 listings from one networking deal. So I think that there are so many other things. Open houses is just one method of prospecting that seems to be the cornerstone of kind of how I got started.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in to this podcast. Again, January 19th, we'll be hosting a panel where we will be talking about how to do an open house the right way, where you can also add hundreds of thousands of dollars to your bank account by doing the open house the right way. So if you want to learn about the during, and the post open house, you got to come and join us January 19th. We will have an RSVP link, so please RSVP and let us know if you'll be able to attend so we can make sure we have enough food and drinks and things for you guys. And also we want to make sure that we have a space that's large enough for everybody to attend. There will be an opportunity for Q&A, so if you have questions, if you want to know how we're doing an open house a certain way or how we would respond to a certain objection, this is an opportunity to get to talk to people who have been doing this now for years and have had a lot of success in it. So thank you guys again, and thank you guys for watching, and we will see y'all on the next one.